This year's LGBT History Month theme is Behind the Lens. So as a network, we've had this unique opportunity to make a quick, short promotion video of some people's stories and the influences media have had on them.
I grew up in two different places. I grew up in the Philippines and in the US. And both countries and both cultures are quite, male-centered, I suppose, patriarchal. And so the US is very strong in terms of its male sexual identity. And as an LGBT person, as a gay person growing up in that sort of environment and that culture, it's quite hard and scary. And now we're in the 20s, and now we get to see programs on television like RuPaul Drag Race, and you just get, it's such a fantastic platform for young people to come out in the open in their full, chosen identity that they want to present to the world as a gay or lesbian or a trans person. And we really get to watch, from behind the lens, watching this thing playing itself out for us and just opening our eyes to what is really happening in our community. They currently are experiencing the same kind of stigma that we did, if not worse. And I just think in that program, it's just so inspiring to see young people talk about it, live it out, and then on top of that, get the opportunity for them to display their talent, to share their passion, and all the different tasks and challenges that they're asked to do in this program, and really shine, and shining through the lens of this backdrop of abuse, backdrop of really difficult coming out stories. And I think we're just at the cusp of it right now. We're just at the very early stages of really uncovering what LGBT means for people and what it should mean for our wider community, because it's an educational process. It's a cultural shift for people to understand what LGBT means in the community, in their families, in their homes. Will take years, will take maybe decades to change the culture from a culture that is quite anti-LGBT to hopefully a culture where it will just be normal. People won't ask those questions. People will have grown up knowing what that is and become adults and not be afraid of it and not be against it, and just have a better understanding of what it is. And that will lessen the suffering that young people who are born as an LGBT person, it will lessen their negative experience, and it will just help them to be not feel as though they have to be something else, not to have to prove themselves in the community, and just be accepted as like anybody else, and not different, and not something dirty or an unwanted thing, because growing up, I heard so many things from my environment about what they thought about what LGBT meant, about what a gay boy is, and all the negative things that they would say to me about what a gay boy is. In the Philippines, we call it bakla. We have a word for gay, which is bakla, which is, if you're called the bakla, it's like you're called it's quite a nasty word. It's quite a derogative word. It's a word that is meant to, people will laugh at if they called you that, you know, and growing up, identifying as a gay person, and people hearing what people thought about it, you know, I ended up hiding that and burying it and going through years of not being able to come to terms with what that means for me. And it's a process that I had to go through, which was a difficult one. But, you know, thankfully, you know, I got there and was able to come out. Do I think that I can be myself authentically in the workplace, in the NHS, in where I work? I think it's a yes and a no. I think that there is a part of me that, because I'm comfortable with my sexuality and with who I am, I'm okay. I'm good with it. I know how to navigate my environment, my community as a gay person. But I don't wear it on my sleeve. I'm not someone who goes around, you know, we don't go around talking about it. It would be very few people who I would feel like I could discuss that with in a one-to-one, in a very sort of private way. But generally in the workplace, it's not something that you'd ever discuss, whereas people around you might discuss their family life, oh, my husband or my wife, my children, and you wouldn't necessarily hear the story of, oh, my boyfriend if you're a male, or oh, my girlfriend if you're a female. It's just not something that I don't think the LGBT community in our work environment are that open about. So there is still a lot of work, I think, to be done in making it normal. Yeah.
Hello, my name is George Machcevanos, my pronouns are he, him, and I work as a well-being youth worker for the mental health support team. Working for the Oxford Health NHS Foundation Trust has given me an amazing opportunity to create safe spaces for LGBTQ+ students and young people within their school settings, educate them regarding queer topics, learn from them, share my lived experience as a gay man, and cherish our community. Speaking of the community, February is marked as the LGBT History Month, and this year's theme is Behind the Lens. So we want to celebrate queer artists and their contribution to cinema and film from behind the lens. As for myself, watching Sense8 was a pivotal moment. In short, Sense8 is a TV series created by the sisters Polkowski, who are both trans, and Michael Straczynski. It is portraying 8 strangers from different parts of the world who suddenly understand that they are Sense8, which means that they are human beings who are emotionally and mentally linked in a telepathic way. So the sisters Polkowski helped me to understand how connected we are and how important it is to embrace this connection regardless of our differences and be kind to one another, because I am also a we. They also helped me understand the concept of fluidity in relationships, gender identity, sexuality, etc. And that we don't have to put ourselves in boxes just to feel valid. Finally, they helped me realize the value of empathy, and that it is not a form of weakness, but a power which enables you to fully grasp another person, which is very important because, after all, solidarity is all we have.
So obviously the theme for this project is Behind the Lens, and me thinking about how media or films or TV has influenced me during the process of coming out. Obviously I'm a middle-aged woman who came out just before I turned 50, and at that time it was actually 2013. And I don't know if people remember a very big YouTube video that went out where Tom Daley publicly on YouTube came out. It was the beginning of December 2013. And for me, it was a point where I'd literally just left my husband and watched the video. And the reason why I watched the video was I'd been sort of acting out on feelings that I'd had in my life from when I was 10 years old. And when I watched the video, I thought, okay, this is my time. If Tom Daley can do it, and I watched his video, and he was very obviously emotional about family. He'd lost his father. It was obviously a very difficult time for him, and that kind of sort of re-emphasised to me that how important it is to make that initial step. So, massively influenced me in talking to my family. I have 4 daughters. The youngest was 10 at the time, and I thought, I've got to do this for myself. I've got to move forward. I've got to live the life that I want to live. I obviously felt like I was cheating my husband at the time of having his time and a proper relationship. So that was the first time I approached actually, looking at something relating to being gay, because obviously I'd been in a straight marriage. I'd been in actually 2 straight marriages and had 4 children. Tom Daley's YouTube video was a huge door that opened into my life. When I did eventually tell everyone, it was an amazing experience because I did not realise how much support was out there, how understanding everyone was, and I think during the sort of late 2000s, there was a lot more highlighted programs. When I sort of talked to a couple of friends, sort of in the gay environment, I didn't know many, but there was a couple. They said go on Netflix. So I bought a laptop and I found Netflix, which was incredible because I watched a film called A Perfect Ending. And I don't know if anybody's watched it, but it's about a middle-aged woman who's married with grown-up children, and she pays for an escort, and then obviously falls madly in love with the escort, etc., etc. So that was kind of for me like, I want to find that person. That was a sort of a real sort of like surge for me to then want to find the perfect partner. From a person who came out whilst working in the department that I work in now. So the environment in which I'm working in, I found a huge acceptance straight away. I think one of the most important things with that was that there were colleagues that had family members that were gay, one that worked in the office and one that was more senior, and I felt like actually I was in this big family of people that knew people that were gay or had relatives that were gay. So I felt like it was really important for me to be part of that, in that I became the Unison LGBT officer, which I've been now for 8 years. So not very long after I came out, I felt like I wanted to be part of that community, and how could I help and how could I support. So for me in Oxford Health Trust, I think the things they are putting in place to support people, the networks and the groups that we go to, and the Rainbow Cuppa and everything else, is such a vital part of being part of the trust and feeling like you're part of a community that looks out for you, cares about you, is there to support you. And I just think that support network is massive in the trust for people that may not be out, may want to talk to somebody one-to-one. I've met with a couple of people, I've had conversations with people to try and help them feel supported in their workplace. So very, very important.
My name is Tom Russell and my pronouns are he, him. I'm a supporter of the LTB community. I've worked in CAMS for a very long time, helping young people talk about whatever they need to talk about. I'm now working at the Specialist Eating Disorder Unit in Marlborough as an OT assistant on the ward and partly in the community as well. There's a series that I've been watching which I think is quite inspirational. Is Queer Eye. It's helps support people in their journey of like self-belief, like clothes, they do the whole thing, and yeah, it was really quite nice, really.
There's so much in the media and on telly and in the Netflix. I've seen a huge change from having one gay person on EastEnders to loads of different sorts of programmes. I mean, I know my colleague Ian will talk about It's a Sin, but the power of that telling people's stories. But there's also jollier, more young influences that I can think of, sex education, and that's where I think we need to target a lot of this media and a lot of the hype that goes on, because it's the children that will form the next generation of culture and of acceptance and inclusion. So for me, I could talk all day about the media. I just think it's so influential, and it has shifted, I think, in a better way when you think what it was like in the 80s. So yeah, I just think it's much more positive now, and there's much more display of the community.
I think it's about people being able to recognise themselves on screen and have positive role models and think, yeah, that's something I'm allowed to be. I mean, I'll be accepted for who I am. That's good. I can crack on and be who I want to be.
I think there are two really important aspects to the theme of Behind the Lens. I think there are some really amazing directors out there like Russell T Davies, who produced some amazing LGBT plus pieces of work like It's a Sin, that tell really important stories about real, proper, lived trauma that members of our community are still living with today. It's really important to tell those tales. It's really important in terms of visibility and enabling people to live their truth, their real life. And that's one of the really important messages for our network. Isn't so much about coming out, but it's enabling people to live their authentic life as their true self. The second aspect of that theme for me is about how important an influence media has in terms of promoting LGBT plus communities in a positive light. Historically, there's been a lot of negative media, and it has such a huge impact in our lives. Over the last 10, 15 plus years, we've gone from just having TV and films to having Twitter and Facebook and all of these different TikTok and things like that. You know, it's got a massive, massive impact in the way the world views everybody. And it's not just about programs and producers. The media as an industry, is is a huge employer of people from the LGBT plus community. You know, we're talking makeup artists, hairdressers, dancers, stylists. There's a vast raft of people that all contribute to these programmes that can influence in so many ways. I think the networks in Oxford Health, the whole family of networks, is an amazing opportunity to change things for the better, to have proper representation. Most people that work for healthcare chose to work in an environment that would allow them to give back to their community. So the workforce in our organisation should be a true reflection of our community, whether that's, you know, race, religion, age, gender, physical ability. There's a vast set of protected characteristics, all of which are valid, and we really need to be supporting those and enabling people to be the best they can possibly be with our staff and with our patients, families and their carers.
For anyone watching this short video, Oxford Health is a totally inclusive organisation and you will be very welcome.